Hello there, I'm Bernice Flowers and welcome to another episode of A Merry Space with Niece. Yes, no, maybe. Which one is it? You know what I'm getting at. Are you tired of saying yes all the time? You say yes when you really mean no? How many times are we placed in situations where we feel pressured to perform, conform, or to please others in some way or fashion because we're afraid to express our true feelings or simply say no to things we don't want to do? I guess saying no doesn't come easily since high expectations were placed upon us from the time we were children. We need to make our parents proud, excel at school, get good grades, represent our communities, and live up to societal standards. Though pressure is good and motivates us to do our best, I believe too much can paralyze us, meaning that no matter what type of pressure we experience is going to have some sort of effect on our mental and emotional health. Let me be clear. All of us can expect to experience some type of pressure in our lives, whether it's financial pressures, social pressures, career and professional pressures, pressures in relationships, marriages, partnerships, parenting, etc. We cannot escape from these anxieties that seem to grip us. It all depends on how we decide to manage these stressors. When the pressure is on, some of us begin to feel overwhelmed and start blaming or doubting ourselves because the finger pointing and hurtful things are said or done to upset us. Now, take a minute to think where and from whom the pressure is coming from and how to deal with it. Does it really matter? Does it bother you? Well, if pressure bothers you, sooner or later you'll need to speak up for yourself and confront these demands. Let's think for a second about where the pressure is coming from. Is it from your parents? Someone you look up to? Is it your coach or mentor? A part of your culture, community, or social group where you have these beliefs that you have to do things you don't want to do or to be a part of just to get along? With certain expectations, we are pressured, which makes it somewhat difficult to say no, especially to our parents, mentors, leaders who have our best interests at heart, supposedly. So what do? We remain quiet and in a constant state of worry about loss of approval or acceptance. There's no harm in saying no. It takes courage. Saying no is not by any means rude. However, when we say no, we must do so from a place of feelings and say it gracefully. Also, our no should mean no. The key here is to step up and develop the ability to confidently say no, especially when the situation is not serving or benefiting us. By learning to say no, we create a space for self-care and prioritize our own well-being. This can have many positive effects in our lives, and it's going to help to reduce stress levels and improve our mental health as well as our physical health. Keep in mind that when we can't do everything or attempt to live up to other people's expectations, it becomes a problem. If it bothers you to say no, perhaps it's time to be realistic. Yes, a reality check. Start prioritizing what's most important to you. Recognize the expectations that brings you or brings out the best in you, and which ones are wearing you down. Remind yourself how much you deserve to have time for yourself. Our time and goals are just as important as others, and we shouldn't feel obligated to give our time and energy to others when we don't feel up to it. Now, I'm not saying or suggesting that we be selfish, self-centered, or we shouldn't say yes when called upon. Simply, we need to change the way we feel about ourselves or our values, set boundaries, and say no to things we don't really want to do or overwhelm us. What we need to learn is when to say yes and when to say no. Occasionally, it makes sense to stop, listen, and have healthy conversations around priorities and consequences. For example, if your boss is continuously asking you to take on more tasks, this is an opportunity to discuss frankly the various responsibilities you are handling currently. Be respectful, transparent, ask for feedback on priorities, negotiate to move deadlines around, and inquire about pending projects that may require your attention. This way, you'll know what pending projects are on the rise and what to expect and prevent having to say, no, my plate is full and I can't take on anymore. You may or may not know that in the United States, employees have the right to say no to their bosses without being fired. Of course, that's within reason. What you say and how you say no matters. There are several laws that protect employees from termination if an employee refuses an employer's request. However, if your boss asks you to do something that is outside the scope of your job description and you refuse, you do face the risk of being disciplined or terminated. So learn when to say yes and when to say no. The same attitude goes for partnerships and relationships. The reality is that we all have different needs. Many of us like hearing the word no, or I should say many of us dislike hearing the word no, and many of us don't like saying it either, especially to our own family, whether it's our partner, children, or extended family members. We think that going along and saying yes is the best decision because we assume that less disagreements equals less conflict. It all boils down to timing. Timing is everything. It's important to be direct when you say no to someone and avoid making excuses when you do so. Let's talk about when someone asks for a favor unexpectedly. Don't know what to do, huh? So take a short pause before you say yes or no. By giving yourself a moment to think, you will be more accurate with your response. For some people, no is a complete sentence because they use a decisive tone, meaning business, and resist the urge to offer unnecessary or additional details about their reasoning or decision. So once you say no, don't give the person a chance to come back and nudge you in case you decide to cave in. Another step towards overcoming being a people pleaser is to look for signs where people take advantage of your generosity. They always want something from you. Have you noticed that those same individuals are suddenly unavailable when you need them to return the favor? Then there are others who are not aware, or some of those who are aware of your giving nature or kindness, that will ask because they know you won't say no. If those same individuals keep insisting that you should help, develop the courage to be firm, clear, and stand up for yourself. If you are constantly asked to do more than you can handle, you're not alone. Many of us are asked to do more than we can handle or realistically possible. We can agree that it is so easy to be pulled in many directions that saying no becomes difficult for many of us to do, whether it's our personal, social, or professional life. However, I agree that the best advice if we want to remain mentally, emotionally, and physically sound is to set boundaries. Whenever you are feeling pressured to do something you don't want to do, you don't have to do it. Take a moment before responding, then say no. Remember, the reason why most people say yes when they really want to say no is a fear of rejection or worrying that their no will upset the other person. Women in particular have a hard time saying no for fear of being criticized or judged too harshly. On the other hand, saying yes too often can produce harmful effects like stress and anxiety. And we don't want to do that. Saying no is not bad. And there are values of saying no. Here are a few. You want to assess and honor your priorities and determine the things that matter most to you. Define your personal values. Every decision you make is a reflection of you and the choices you make. Love you. Fall in love with yourself. If you aren't doing so already, start loving yourself and come to grips that you can't please everyone. As the famous quote says, you can please some of the people all the time. You can please all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. Change your beliefs. Stop believing that no makes you look bad or it's a sign of being not willing to help another person, whether it's your partner, your parent, family members, or a co-worker. So change the way you think. Have a conversation before you say no, if possible. Here you're going to want to prioritize your tasks so you wouldn't let anyone down. Don't get burnt out because if you fail to deliver your commitments, everyone loses. What are the values of saying yes? You must know your reason for saying yes so you will distinguish when to say no. When it's all said and done, get over the guilt that causes you to say yes more often than you say no. Keep in mind that guilt makes decisions for us versus our own judgment. Make that mental shift. Rewire your brain to increase your comfort level with saying no. That's it for now, folks. I'm Niecy with another episode of A Merry Space. Stay well, stay healthy, and join me next time.